conquer and we're going to take some. Is that understood? Yes, sir. That's what we're going to do, sweetheart. We are going to go and get some. All right, people, on the ready line. Are you me? Yeah! Are you me? Yeah! What are you? What are you?
In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, welcome again to Oscar Mike Radio, to this special segment. We're on assignment. I'm going to be on assignment. I am pleased and honored to be part of the 10th annual Elizabeth Dole Convening event going on next week. And I have one of the fellows who are going to be recognized with me. And we're going to get into all of what the Elizabeth Dole Foundation is doing with this, their history, but more importantly, talk about one of the honorees for this event, Navy Seabee, Michael Korman. Welcome to Oscar Mike Radio.
Pleasure to be here, Travis, and thank you, and Semper Fi.
Semper Fi, absolutely. I've been told that, Michael, Marines are just ballast for, cargo ships and aircraft carriers and the like, so it's all good.
I'm not sure a Seabee would see it that way, but I understand where you're coming from.
Here is something that, I think about but don't think about. And I think about in the terms that, I am part of the VA medical system and get care there. But one thing that I don't think about a lot, because I'm just not in that space, is what it takes for a family member, a child, a parent, a spouse to care for a veteran who needs like medical care or in-home care all the time. And I know that there's challenges with that. So as I learned more about what this part of the Elizabeth Dole Foundation does, I really appreciated the fact that there's this focus on recognizing the contributions, sacrifices, and advocacy veteran caregivers have for other veterans, and you're one of them. So talk to me a little bit about how that all came to be, please, Michael.
Well, my father-in-law is a Marine, and a very proud Marine, and he was in Delta 1-3 in Vietnam. He was a tunnel rat, and he saw some stuff over there and was exposed to Agent Orange, and really for my wife's entire life, my father-in-law has suffered the ill effects of Agent Orange exposure, which really affects, every veteran that I meet that has been exposed to it, they have different ailments. So there's no single one issue that affects everyone, like tinnitus, for example, which is ringing in the ears, and it's kind of like, we know what that is. Agent Orange affects everyone's DNA differently. And so when I met Karen and got to know her parents, deep respect. In fact, I took my father-in-law to the opening of the National Marine Corps Museum in Quantico, and he loved that. And he's been an important part of our life. And then about 3 years ago, a little more than 3 years ago now, my mother-in-law passed away, and she was his caregiver. And it was then, my wife is a very successful executive at the University of Illinois at Chicago, and has that executive life. I was in a previous life an executive at Target Corporation, was very busy with that. But when Mrs. Schultz passed away, we made the decision as a family that I was going to focus on Jim's care and my daughter's care. My daughter at the time was dealing with some typical teenage mental health issues, and she just needed a lot more attention. And now I see Jim nearly every day. I attend most, if not all, of his medical appointments, especially with primary care providers. And it's really evolved. And I've kind of, he jokes, but he means it, that I'm his best friend. And he has become a very, very deep friend for me. And I love caring for the guy. And we're so much so that we're moving in together in about 3 weeks. And in a new home, so that we can care for him. And the thing that I tell people all the time is we want him to have a long and joyful life. He's 81, And we think we can get him 3 squares a day and get him out walking and doing the things that will extend his life.
That's a serious commitment. But before we get into that, what are some of the challenges that you've observed working with the VA or providing care to your father-in-law, Michael?
Well, we're very fortunate here in North Chicago between the Evanston Seabach, which is where he goes for some of his care, and the Lovell Medical Center, which is as I recall, the only joint military and VA facility in the system up at Great Lakes at Navy Boot Camp. We have found an incredibly open and welcoming program on a variety of different levels that have helped Jim navigate. And I won't lie, I help as well, because I help him find the right people to talk to. And there aren't many people like me that can help guide a specific family member. So one of the things that I try to focus on is helping caregivers know who to talk to at various facilities. And I do talks frequently at local hospitals to help them navigate the labyrinth that is the VA.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because it sounds like that you not only care for your father-in-law, but you also advocate outside of your family for other caregivers. And it must be, for those who are not initiated to the VA way, a insurmountable task when they look at the mountains of bureaucracy to get help. How do you help them navigate through that, Michael?
Well, the first thing I try to explain to especially social workers who nearly every caregiver, allied health professional that I speak with in any hospital setting deals with veterans on an almost daily basis. And families are often struggling at some of the most difficult times in their lives with their family members that are very, very ill. And so I try to explain to kind of the first step for me is explaining to caregivers, social workers, that there are 3 main functions of the VA. And I really focus on VHA, the health administration, when I'm talking to healthcare providers, the benefits administration, which is really tied to claims and benefits, cash and otherwise, and then the National Cemetery Administration. So when I'm talking to social workers in a hospital situation or environment, I'm really focused on the VHA, the health side, and I want to help them know who to call within the VISN, which is the regional area for the VA in this area, whether that's at Jesse Brown Hospital or the Hines Hospital or at Lovell. And just demystifying kind of the labyrinth is sometimes half the battle. I've never had one of my presentations where someone came up to me and said, I knew all that stuff already. Never once.
If you do, let me know, because I want to talk to you and that person. So you do this, right? And you start going through this process of caring for your father-in-law. You two become very close. He has to be able to tell you that, hey, you know what? I'm glad you're here. I know that I'm being taken care of. And that has to take a lot of pressure, not only off him, but also you all as a family unit. Am I right thinking that?
You are, but it's been an evolution. He's a
Okay.
proud Marine. He just turned 81. In fact, we had the opportunity to move into this home that'll allow him to have an ensuite environment on the first floor of this home that he can't do stairs. And it was just a very fortunate set of circumstances that we were able to do this with his help, with our help. And initially he was like, no, I don't want to burden you. I don't want to be. And we kind of had to put it to him like, okay, Jim, you can live by yourself, but it would be in an assisted living facility, a memory care unit or otherwise, or just an independent living unit, or with us. We were having difficulty logistically getting you to all of your medical appointments and making sure you have all the meals that you need. We tried the Meals on Wheels thing. He didn't care for that. So we were just kind of dealing with constantly traveling between homes. And ultimately on January 1st of this year, I said, Jim, we kind of need to make a decision here. And by the next morning, he made the decision that we were all going to move in together. And even then, he had family members say, you don't want to do that. You don't want to live with your kids. It's going to be the worst thing. I find more and more that the sandwich generation, as we are sometimes called, we're becoming much more open to it. I was talking to a parent the other day at a water polo match for my daughter. He said, it seems like we're getting back to the 1900s and the 1920s when families lived together in the same farm or the same piece of land.
Well, it's not a bad thing, right? And to your point, you can see what's going on right there. You don't have to get in the car and travel, 20, 30 an hour away to get to him. It must be easier. Um, I know some Vietnam era veterans, Michael, and their kids tell me, tongue in cheek, that parents can be hard to raise. Wait till you have to deal with this, Travis. But you're doing all this, and then the Elizabeth Dole Foundation has their 10th annual convening, and I'm just curious, Michael, how did you get involved with Elizabeth Dole Foundation and the work that they're doing, not only to honor fellows like you, but also the advocacy work needed to make caregivers more effective?
Well, I had a someone that I work with in the allied health professionals, as I was giving these seminars, said, "Hey, have you heard of the Elizabeth Dole Foundation?" And of course, I've heard of the Elizabeth Dole Foundation. I didn't know a lot about what it did. And she said, you might want to look into it. And they have this thing called the Fellows Program. And so I looked into it. And initially, I was not going to apply. I figured that, it was for people different than me. And then through some conversations with family and my wife and some others, and they said, well, why not? You are a caregiver. You're his best friend. You're taking him to all these appointments. And so I applied, was kind enough to get an interview. And in fact, I'm the first son-in-law caregiver ever placed in the fellows program, and I hope to take some of the stigma out. I mean, you can see that I'm a fairly well decorated guy. I spent 5 years in combat. I worked for General Dave Petraeus in Iraq on his staff. And I retired as an E9. So and by the way, my father-in-law loves pointing out that an E9 is pushing him around in his wheelchair. Sergeant Schultz, the E5, values that very much and gets quite a kick out of that when he sees fellow Marines. He points that out. So, I hope to be able to use this opportunity to find more, sons-in-law, fathers-in-law, and others that can help and remove some of that stigma of you don't need to be the big bad Master Chief. I was folding laundry earlier this morning. I'm still dad. I'm still husband. I'm so many other things, but I'm also a caregiver.
Well, I think it's an interesting part of the veteran transition story that, quite frankly, Michael's not talked about enough. Like, I didn't know a lot about this until I started digging into what the Elizabeth Dole Foundation did with this program and this outreach, right? And I knew that, I've talked to plenty of spouses, wives primarily, who have the challenges with their husbands, but I never thought of it from the in-law perspective. And it makes sense, right? If you're going to be a family unit, then the whole family has to be involved in that care and advocacy. So I just think this is another angle of the veteran experience that I think we all need to learn more from.
Totally agree. And I look at my daughter who's 17 and getting ready to fledge out to college. She's a caregiver. She's a hidden hero for my father-in-law. And now that she's driving, she can take him to medical appointments and be another resource for him. It does. It takes a family and it takes a village. One of the things that I think is really going to be great for Jim is he's now going to have a social network that is active in his life, which is all of our friends. I joke that we have the 5 families that we kind of hang out together pre and post COVID. They were all the kids went to daycare together, 17 years ago. They will now become part of his life. And one of the things that's been lacking for him is social interaction. And social isolation for veterans is one of the big challenges. I think we all know veterans that can be curmudgeonly and just don't want to be, they always want to live in their home. They want to live by themselves. They don't want anybody. And some of that is social. Some of that is societal. Some of it is they're just angry from what happened to them in Vietnam or after, or how their life changed. So you can't always get through to every veteran, but we need to try to have no veteran alone. I mean, that's the name of my 501c19 entity. We've got to find a way to get to caregivers and help them find the tools and have the confidence to have conversations with these families.
So tell me, how's this weekend been? Are you in DC now? Are you getting ready to go there? What's this experience been like for you?
Yeah, I fly down tomorrow, and I'll be there early in the morning. I love when I have a chance to go to DC to walk around the memorials. So I'll be around the Vietnam vets, Korean War vets, World War II. I'll walk around the mall. And then events start in the late afternoon And then we'll be in some training on Sunday and Monday. We have the convening on Tuesday, and then Wednesday we're going to Capitol Hill and hope to lobby our legislature on being a caregiver. And of course, a lot of the training that we're going to get on Sunday and Monday are going to help launch us into that those Capitol Hill visits with, my U.S. Senator Tammy Duckworth, obviously a war hero in her own right. I would love to be able to chat with her again and just talk to her about caregivers specifically. And Mike Bost from Illinois is the head of the House Veterans Affairs Committee. People like that. We often talk about warfighters. We often talk about dependents. I don't think we've given enough attention to caregivers and their importance in the system of care. And having just come out of two very devastating wars, not to mention Vietnam, we need to put attention on caring for our vets. And one last thing I would say about this. We're only beginning to see some of the health challenges that our vets are going to have. My health issues related to the VA didn't come to the fore until about 10 years after I came home from Iraq. And I was this big, bad Master Chief. I don't need any help. I can figure it all out myself, until I had a crisis. And my wife said, maybe you ought to see somebody at the VA. You've been pretty angry lately. And I got laid off from a job, and I had some bad luck, and woe was me kind of stuff. And I didn't make it into the darkness, but I saw where the darkness was. And it enabled me to go to the VA and get the help that I needed up in the Twin Cities. And I've been very, very honestly so pleased with VA care ever since. And, from the era that you and I grew up in, when I was early in my days in the service, my Vietnam vet buddies, I'd say, hey, well, I got an appointment over at the VA. They'd be like, don't go to the VA. They're the worst. They're horrible. So I had this kind of mentality of anti-VA because these mentors of mine, these chiefs and senior chiefs and master chiefs, were telling me, don't go to the VA. Well, that was misguided. And I'll say the VA is better than it was 20 years ago, but at least try. And that's my message to vets, is at least try to get the help that they have available for you.
I totally echo your sentiment, Michael. I get VA care, and I won't get into every part of it now, but the care I've received has been stellar. And I really, try to tell people, hey, they're trying very hard, and I have nothing but admiration for the caregivers that work at the VA. I am hoping to meet you Tuesday. I'm going out early Tuesday morning down to DC. This is a new experience for me. I'm so pleased to be able to participate and understand how you all serve veterans. I think that's the coolest part for me walking away from this is you're a veteran. You've served our country. You've served the sailors underneath of you. But now you're serving another veteran who served, his country in a totally different way, but it's still all about service, Michael. So I'm looking forward to it and just want to thank you for your time this morning as you get ready for a very busy next couple of days.
Bravo Zulu, Travis, and Semper Fi.
Semper Fi. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, this aspect of service, aspect of taking care of your family and understanding how we can support those who will make the veteran experience better. I want to thank, the Elizabeth Dole Foundation for doing this and having me on, and the team behind that, and Michael for your time. As we say in Oscar Mike Radio, we're mission in flight.
The biggest fear Gold Star families have, that their child will be forgotten.
We need to never forget freedom wasn't free.
It's the fact that they give us the life we have now. We should remember them and give thanks to them.
If I can be a part of something today that's going to make the surviving family of any of these veterans, these heroes, feel better tomorrow, then it's worth it.
That one wreath symbolizes one family that was able to smile because of the generous donations.
To sponsor a wreath and honor a veteran, visit wreathsacrossamerica.org.
Thank you for listening and watching Oscar Mike Radio, where our active duty service members and veterans are in action and the mission is in flight. Oscar Mike Radio is an oversized load Co-Sinister One production. If you are a veteran or know a veteran who needs help, please dial 988 and press 1 for the Veterans Crisis Line.